I've got 5 examples of a gap up situation in which power pink is crossing over power orange. And I show you this because it's a dual or maybe a combination pattern that takes place, or I guess might be conveyed more appropriately as a particular down touch pattern has the crossover, the power pink crossover that takes place. This pattern that I'm talking about is right here in the trend chart, and as you can see, trend red is crossing over trend green. It is also crossing over the trio lines, and that does make it seem to be more powerful as well when it does that. But the key element is that red crosses over green, and this is the first, this is the crossover day, and this is the first day that we identify this pattern as what we call a sky touch. If you're not familiar with it, you have 6 different patterns in the second pattern grouping of 3-gap analysis. The first pattern is the identical indicators, and you need to have 12 or more of those, and you can have them in 1 or 2 pattern groups. You also need to have the down touches, and this is what we're talking about here. There are 6 down touches. 5 of them are going down and 1 is going up, and it's called the sky touch. However, the crossover day is what we refer to as the 0 day, and there are 4 more sky touches that work with gaps up. And so we have the 5 sky touches and the 5 other down touches. All of them are called down touches and qualify as down touches. It's just that the sky touches are actually continuation patterns. So sometimes you get a movement that starts slowly and goes up and then gaps at the end or toward the end. Usually when it gaps up, it runs out of gas, and that's the end of it. It goes down after that, but not always. Now, it just depends on the conditions that you see. Likewise, the third group that we have in the 3-gap analysis is the proximity patterns, and those are location patterns and shape patterns. The power 4 is the power pink, blue, white, and yellow, and the power Zion it makes up the power what we call the power 5. And Zion is often divergent to the power 4, meaning that Zion is above power orange and the power 4 are under power orange, because we use power orange as the dividing line for divergence. Now, one of the key things to this also is that red and green are both above the trio lines, yellow, pink, and blue. You'll see them in other examples where one or both of them is inside the yellow, pink, blue lines, and things still work effectively, quite effectively. But in this particular example that we're utilizing here, with the power pink crossover power orange combination, they most of the time will end up above the 3 trio lines, and they are most effective that way when they come together with the power pink crossover. Now, when this happens, also on the vertical green line, you can see over here in the swing chart that swing Zion is up, swing pink is down, and that is a divergent situation as well. And the other thing that I'll have you notice is, or take note of, is that Zip Zion is at 62. When Zip Zion is high, it means that others are being aware, or have been made aware of what's going on, and more trades are taking place. It's even better if it's higher, but it's still at or above 60. Note also while we're going through this that many times we're dealing with a moving average line, like the white dash, long dash line is the moving average 100. And so sometimes things can be or appear to be connected to that, but as you'll see, they'll be connected to other lines as well. The second one that I'm going to show you here is this one happens to be attached somewhat to the 20 moving average. Is that green line going through the middle there that you probably can hardly see on the videos is the 20 moving average. However, on this line we have Zip Zion at 84. Again, swing Zion is up, swing pink is down. We're divergent in this situation. If we go over to the trend chart, we have red and green. The red is crossed over the green, and it is and both the red and green are above the yellow, pink, and blue. And of course, down below, power pink has crossed over the power orange line. Now the power red crossed over a couple of days ago, which typically makes for a stronger movement, and the candle did move decent in today's activity, and probably because power red was over the power orange line. The third one I'm going to show you is again if we look over here, on the zip chart we have Zip Zion at 83, and again, Zip Zion is not highest, but Zip Zion is high. When it's above 60 and 80 is great. It's just telling you that there are a number of trades going on in the market. And now down below in the swing chart, swing pink and swing Zion are not in divergence, but they are both above zero, which is indicative of a next day up. Because oftentimes you'll get Zip Zion highest and you'll do a low angle up like right here, and that'll give you one more day of up, but we don't have that here. We do, however, have some significant movement in the Zip yellow line. It's crossed over the 50. Whenever it crosses over the 50, that's very important. I'm going to back up one and look at the previous one. That Zip Zion was running at 93. Zip Zion. Zip yellow was running at 93 in this case. And the day before, or the one before that, Zip yellow came up to 46, but then it went back down because of the big red candle next day. So there's the second one right there. There's the third one that I showed you. And all of these have the same thing. Trend red crossing over trend green, and both red and green. Now in this particular case, green is not above, let me look here. It appears that trend green is at 95, trend yellow is at 67. So that trend pink is at 1.3. So trend green is in between the yellow and the pink line. So it's not quite over the top, but we like to see it over the top whenever we can. But we definitely have this is the alert signal, power pink crossing over power orange. And when we have that alert signal, and we also have trend red crossing over trend green and above the trio lines, the three blue, pink, yellow lines, that gives us a combination that gives us a gap. And we like to see when the Zip Zion is high in this setup. The fourth one we have is again power. Trend red is crossed over trend green. Both trend red and green are above the trio, yellow, pink, and blue. Power red has crossed over the power orange line on the same day that power pink has crossed over the orange line. And that's great, but we're not referencing the power red line. The whole setup is based on the Power Pink crossover. We can set that as a indicator scan and just find every one of those on the indicator. And with your you basically, when you do that, you set a excuse me, you set a session, because remember, your 6.5 hours that the market is open, or 390 minutes, that's referred to as a session. So what you need to do when you're looking for gaps is you set a session shorter than that, and then you be sure to check that box. I have some videos made on that already about creating a session. And you basically create the point in time when you treat the candle that closes as the end of day candle. So in other words, you're going to get one candle on these printouts or on these charts that you look at, and that one candle will be, maybe 100 minutes long. So that's basically a little over an hour and a half into the market. And then, based on that hour, that 100 minutes, you can start setting scans at 101 minutes in your scanner. You can set the interval or the time of for the scan to start. So it's a two-part process of finding gaps by setting the session and setting the interval in the scanner. Both you have to set the time, and you have to set the interval. So in the scanner, couple of things you got to set. But again, those things are explained. And this is again a classic example of a gap up. We had a nice green candle in this case as well. And this particular day here, Zip Red, the day before the vertical green line, was at 44. On the vertical green line day, Zip Red is at 92. So it's jumped 48 points, almost 50 points. And this is a classic move that we know about. Zip Red moves even 30 points is good, but Zip Red moves 40 or 50 points and it needs a strong movement like 40 or 50 points. We like to see that, but that's not the qualifying issue. The qualifying issue is that it ended up above 90. When it ends up above 90, Zip Red will go down the next day, but the price will go up. And in this case here, Zip Yellow has crossed over the 50 line. Zip Yellow is actually at 67. And again, looking at the other videos that you may have in the past, you have more than likely heard me talk about the importance of where Zip Yellow is when you're talking about movements up or down, because Zip Yellow needs to be high in order for things to stay up, move up, and Zip Yellow, when it's down and under 20 or under 15, prices tend to go down. So also, Swing Zion is highest again, and Swing Pink is right under it. Both of them are above zero. And the last one I've got here is this one here is just a little bit short of what I see, in the fact that Power Pink has not crossed over zero yet, or the Power Orange line yet. And obviously, orange and green are under zero. But we're on the 2 days ago is when trend red crossed over trend green, and you basically had a spinning top on that day for a candle, but you're in between the 100 and the 200 moving average there. And 2 days later, on the vertical green line day, you had Power Pink just right up underneath Power Orange and Green, but it had not crossed over. But we can see the movement that's taking place in the trend trio. The blue, pink, yellow are curving back up. You may not be aware of it, but if you're not, the trend trio is the first group out of the three groups that are the short-term trend, and the trend trio moves faster than the other two groups. And the other two groups are Power Orange and Green and swing red and green. And those three groups, those 7 lines, we look at for the short-term trend. And in fact, when you're looking at your pattern, when you're looking at patterns, the very first thing we check is where your short-term trend lines are. And then after that, you look for different things, signals and conditions, both of those, obviously. And so we see here on this day as well that ZIP Zion is at 59.8. It's just about at 60, and that's close enough. We do have ZIP green at 100, and that's encouraging as well. ZIP yellow is low. It's still only at 17, but obviously it's the next day that it crosses 0. But one thing you can note here, and you can kind of see what's happening with the values. Again, if you've heard me comment about the relationship between power pink and power yellow, oftentimes the power pink will be lowest and yellow will cross through it and stay under and stay down low. Whereas power pink will cross over yellow and go up, proceeding to move the price up. Because you have this situation on this point here, 3 days before that last red candle, 3 days before the vertical green line, you have power pink lowest. And each of those 3 days, both the pink and the yellow go up. So we can see that yellow is not going down. It's not running sideways. The probability is that it's going to continue going up. That doesn't mean it's going to go up, but that's one thing to look at and see that that's a contributing factor or a small piece of supporting evidence that would substantiate the probability that price is going to continue up. Obviously, the trend blue, pink, yellow lines with them all going up is a much more powerful example of in likelihood of next day up, but what you're doing here is you're expecting to be able to capture what may be a real strong movement when power pink crosses over power orange, and you can logically see that in that power Zion is up above the main lines, the red and the green and the yellow line, and power pink is under it. And so if there is a crossover, it's likely that power pink or swing pink will continue up, which it does, and crosses over. And it's always great when they're both over 0 because prices have a tendency to go up. Likewise, you may not think of it a whole lot, but ZIP yellow is likely to go up because of the separation between yellow and pink. ZIP yellow is at 17, and ZIP blue, I said that wrong, the difference between yellow and blue, not pink. Blue's at 31 and yellow's at 17. So you have a strong, there's 14 points there between yellow and blue. And as a pair, ZIP blue and yellow normally run together, sometimes just identically on top of one another. When they're separated, there's two things that happen. When they separate, it causes strong movement, volatility. When they come back together, it causes volatility. And so you just need to identify which way things are going. And obviously, if you were looking at this vertical green line day and you're waiting for the open, and even if you weren't sure which way things were going, when it gaps up like that, that's like a red flag that says, hey, I'm going up. And even though, and it's following normal candle activity, it opened, it opened at, I wasn't thinking about the price. This is a small price stock at $1.47, and then it went down to $1.45, and then it went up to a high of $1.97. So that's probably about a 25% increase during the day. So nice move on in as far as making 25% of your money. A lot of people in the stock market think 8% for an entire year is good. So any of us that trade daily know what the potential is, and that's why we're here. And so that's the 5 examples that I wanted to show you in this what I refer to as the Power Pink crossover video, or patterns, I guess I should say, because it's those patterns, those crossover patterns that we see. Power Pink crossing over zero, it happens more often than you think, and it usually works best when more of the lines can cross over on the same day, or at 1 day or 2 days apart, or not 2 days. One same day usually works great, and that just seems to throw more power at the situation. And in this particular situation here, I'm going to flip back. In this particular situation down here, the following day, power red crosses over zero and crosses over the power orange line, making for the big movement. So that's even another sign that will tell us that, when power red is under it and we're anticipating a big movement, if power red crosses over, we know we're going to have a nice candle, because when power red crosses over zero, you usually have a nice candle, and when power red crosses under zero, you usually have a nice candle. Just like here 2 days later, when power red went back down, you have a nice red candle. So that's the Power Pink crossover.